Let's get the chat popped out here. All right. What is good, everybody? It is the Godfather of VR, the ageless one of the man, Lincoln Clay. We're back with a live stream podcast. Podcasts with me nowadays are, I feel like, few and far in between. So when I do one, it actually feels weird. Um, and this one feels extra weird, but I did feel compelled to do this stream. And I promise you, the timing of this podcast, I did not plan it out this way. Um, so today I'm going to talk about my good friend Gamertag. He gave his thoughts on Green Hell VR for PSVR 2 yesterday. Um, he does not know about this stream. I did not let him know. I just up and decided to do it. Well, I mean, I didn't up and decide to do it. I've been thinking about it all day. Um, but it is ironic that he's live right now. He's streaming Breachers because Breachers got a new map today, ship map, and I definitely implore you all to go check that out. Breachers is a great game. I mean, basically it's the closest thing you'll get to Rainbow Six. I mean, they've talked about games like Firewall and Onward, being the VR version of Rainbow Six. At the time, I felt like that might be true, but the fact of the matter is, the only thing that Onward and Firewall have in common with Rainbow Six, in my opinion, is that they're both slow-paced games. Firewall might be a little bit closer to Rainbow Six, being that the goal is to get to hack the laptop. So that might be a little bit closer, but uh, Breaches is definitely the absolute closest you will get to Rainbow Six. I mean, you can rappel up and down buildings, swing in through windows just like Rainbow Six, blast through walls. It is a great game, and I've been wanting to get back to that. And now that they've got a new map called the ship map, today's a pretty good day to get back to Breachers. I don't know if I'll stream it because one thing about a game like Breachers or a game like Rainbow Six, I hate it when it comes down to me as to whether we win or lose, where it comes down to me against three or me against one other person, especially when you're playing a game where stealth and cover is everything. So, but I still love the game no less. So, I have not figured out, how to present this because I know what I want to say. I just don't know the order in which I want to say it. Um, I don't know whether to talk about his opinion of Green Hell VR and then let that segue into some things that I've been thinking about relative to PSVR 2, or do I get my thoughts and then kind of back it up with his brutal opinion of Green Hell VR. But Green Hell VR is like the survival game. It's been out on PC for a while, and it just released on PSVR 2 yesterday. And I bought this game on PC a couple of weeks ago, and this is the part where I'm not sure which direction to go in first, to talk about what I saw on PC or to talk about Gamertag's opinion of Green Hell VR on PSVR 2. Well, let's start with my opinion. So I bought the game on PC, and when I booted the game up, the menu screen, if that was any indication, I thought Green Hell VR was going to be one of the best looking games I've seen in quite a while. I think a lot of VR people can generally agree that Half-Life Alyx is still the best looking game in VR, built from the ground up. Up there with along with Lone Echo. So when I started playing the game, and I thought the graphics were decent. I don't think the graphics weren't as good as the menu screen would lead you to believe, but I still thought the graphics were good. I kind of think, the story is a little bit, for today's podcast, I think the story is a little bit irrelevant. But I will say, as I'm moving through this jungle, as I said before, the game looked decent, but the biggest thing that stood out to me was pop in. The pop in for this game was absolutely horrible. I mean, I should have recorded it so I could show you guys. But the rocks and trees, rocks were suddenly popping in. Trees in the distance looked like, a charcoal colored pole. And then as you got closer, then the tree bark and all kinds of other details would suddenly pop in on the trees. The grass and vegetation underneath your feet, it didn't pop in, it grew in front of you. And so as you're moving forward, grass and other vegetations is just suddenly sprouting up in front of you as if somebody poured magic water on it. So I said, whoa, and I'm running this on my main PC on my 4090, and I had everything turned up. Everything turned up as high as it could go. In the game, ran decent, but the pop-ins was the glaring issue. And I've said this numerous times on numerous racing streams that I think the power of the PS5 relative to VR, in my opinion, is a little bit suspect. So if I'm playing this game on PC and it's got that amount of pop-in, now I'm wondering what the PSVR version how that's gonna turn out. There was some speculation as to whether people would get a PC port or whether they would get a Quest port, and looks like all things are pointed towards Quest port. And so naturally, I was waiting for certain people to see what they would think of the game, and Gamertag was one of them. And I think he would be okay with me playing the video. So I'm going to play a little bit of his review of Green Hell VR. It's only a 5-minute video, but I'll play a minute or two. And I guess to use that old, not that old, that the line as far as YouTube goes, fair use, fair use. So 1 second, folks. And we will get to this. All right, here we go.
Green Hell has accomplished something I didn't think would happen in one of the latest versions of the same game. It's the worst PSVR 2 game I've played. And it's for a couple of reasons. One, the graphics. The graphics aren't exact, and these are reasons, all right? This is not the worst reason. The graphics look like Resident Evil 7 from PSVR. Now, if you liked Resident Evil 7 on PSVR, that's cool. But that's what you're looking at. You're looking at quite a low-res, low-texture game. And it can look okay because there's a lot of foliage, when you're in the forest and stuff and things are moving. But in general, I would not go in there expecting anything new looking. That's one. Two, the game's got eye tracking. But what the eye tracking does is actually mess up your menus. So, for example, if you've got a bag and you lift out the bag to have a look at something and you put your hand on it or point at it to find out what it is, if eye tracking's on and you look at it, it won't tell you the name of the item. So you're like, what use is eye tracking? I don't even know what use it is actually at the moment. It defaults us off, and it's better that way. Don't turn eye tracking on. It just means you don't find out what's in your bag when you need to find out.
All right, I got to pause for a second because I don't know if YouTube, if this algorithm would pick up, if I let the video run on too long. without saying something, because I think when you use somebody else's content, I think you have to add commentary to it to avoid getting a strike. Although I doubt that he would, give me a strike, but I don't know if the algorithm will give me a strike. So I'm taking a second here just to throw some commentary on it, and we will continue, as they say, fair use, fair use. But yeah, that's he's already talking about the use of the eye tracking, as the eye tracking seems to be more of a hindrance than a help.
That was in your bag. And overall, and I said this the first time I played it, and I kind of felt it got better over time, this feels like a complete rewind to how I found the game the first time. I find it clunky, I find it glitchy. I find if you don't do anything the game wants you to do in a certain set way, like of the way the game's telling you to do it, it just glitches out. It doesn't understand what's going on. I find it frustrating that, for example, if you need to pick up a plant, and I know some of you are going to say to me, this is how the game is, this is how we like it. That's fine. I don't like it. I think they've literally left the game out of the game. If there's a plant that you need to pick up to maybe use for some medicine, you can't actually grab the plant. You can't hit it with a stick. You can't hit it with a sharp stone. You have to build. You have to get a stick and a stone and make a hammer to get the plant. Why? Why would I need to do that?
Yeah, that's pretty odd right there. As he's saying, if you want to pick up a plum to eat it, you can't just pick it up and eat it. You have to create a tool to acquire that plum that's laying on the ground that you can just simply pick up. Let's move on.
And then the hammer breaks in seconds. It's just, honestly, I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy it. And maybe people enjoy it, maybe with a keyboard and mouse, because you're not physically swinging this stuff. But for the last 4.5 hours, I've been swinging around, breaking stuff. Fire's been going out. Game's been glitching. I've had to restart it 3 times. I'm just not having fun. I'm just not having fun. It's terrible. To me, it's terrible. And I'm gutted. I literally... the smooth turning doesn't feel very smooth unless you turn it all the way up. The scaling's a little bit off when it comes to the hands. It just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to play. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted from playing this game today. It's been hella frustrating. And, and a lot of people would say to me, that's the name of the game, dude. This is a survival game. Well, this is my channel, yeah? And I don't want to play this game. It's as simple as that. I don't enjoy it. This is the worst. But where are the legs? Why haven't I got any legs anymore? I liked having legs. I thought it was funny that you could make the legs go up and down and you had to strap them up. They're gone. I think.
Now, what he's talking about there on the PC version, there are buttons. I guess if you hit the A and the X buttons on your controllers, depending on what you're playing on, your right leg or your left leg will raise up. And he's saying that there's no legs on the PSVR 2 version. And I think that points to something as well. But before I jump the gun and say what I think it could be, in all fairness, I don't know if that's the case with the Quest version. I don't know if you have legs or not on the Quest version. But let's go.
That's weird. The whole experience was very unfun. It felt really old. It felt really clunky. And the game doesn't look good. It looks, as I said, if you remember what Resident Evil 7 on PSVR looks like, and when I say remember it, it looked good then. But now, I mean, it does look okay now, but you'd expect better. And this is around that level for me, visually. And also, there's a lot of fog and a lot of mist. And I don't know where that's come from. I've heard rumours that this game is the Quest version with, like, better graphics on top. I don't know. I mean, at the moment, I would definitely, if you're looking for a survival game, go Song in the Smoke. And wait for it.
Okay, so the fog and the mist that he's speaking of, I don't know. I don't know if that's because there's fog and mist in Switchback, and people pointed that out too. In all fairness, I only spent about an hour, 2 hours on the PC version, mainly because I think the game is moving slow. For the hour or two that I played it, I really didn't do much except build a fire. I had to pick up some wood, small pieces, and throw them into a designated spot and then the big pieces, there were no big pieces laying around, so I had to take an axe or a machete or something and chop down the tree, the really thin trees to get big pieces. But I think the biggest reason I did not stay with this game is that once I noticed once I saw the pop in, I couldn't unsee it. It was funny to move forward and watch grass grow in front of your feet and then move backwards and watch the grass shrink back down into the ground. Let's go.
Some updates for this but also be prepared for the gameplay. It's hella hard. It's hella hard, and I just don't find it fun. And I really, really wanted to. I went in there, I was thinking, dude, I've been waiting to play this game for ages. And to be fair, alarm bells have been ringing because the developers didn't give me a key till an hour after the launch. And I've been asking them for ages. They've literally been ignoring me. They've been ignoring giving me a code because they knew... Actually, my opinion might have been a little bit better if I had more time with it. Because at the moment, I don't ever want to play it again after 4 hours. Maybe I could have slept on it and thought, right, I'll try again tomorrow. I don't know. But in the first 4 hours, at the moment, there's other games, way more better games that I want to play than this. It's just not good. So that's the raw end of it. That's my 4 hours of Green Hell VR. And I mean, if you guys really, really want me to check it out in the future, I would probably give it another shot in about 4 months' time. And hopefully by then I won't need to, because we've got really good games around the corner. I don't know how much this game is. I'm assuming it's going to be $30. I'll quickly check. Yeah, they want $30 for this, or $26.99 with PS Plus. Listen, by all means, I hope you enjoy it. I really do. But yeah, I think I'm out for this, and I think this was the final straw for me with Green Hell. I kept trying different versions, and I did have quite a good time with one version. But yeah, this was by far one of the worst experiences I've had on the PSVR 2. So there it is, guys. Cheers.
Okay. Let's bring that back. Oh. Alakazam, how's it going? So, huge red flag that the developers waited until the day of release to send him a code. And I can tell you right now, back when I was kind of doing the same thing the gamertag was doing, when I was trying to... Oh shit, my camera's acting funny. Well, if my camera freezes, what I've been experiencing is I've had to close it. I've had to close OBS and then open it back up. If the camera freezes, then I'm just going to keep moving on, because if I close OBS, it'll kill the stream. So if the camera freezes, then it is what it is. I'll just keep going. So anyway, might be time to get a new camera. That's weird. I've never seen this happen before. So I don't know if it's something with me having a bad connection or not. And make sure everything's plugged in. Everything seems to be plugged in. Oh, crap. Oh, well, we're going to go ahead and move forward. Yeah, the camera froze up, and I don't want to go through the hassle of trying to get it going again. Anyway, so... yeah, that's a huge red flag that they waited until the day that the game launched to give gamertag a code. And as I was saying, back in my days of, when I used to try to report on the latest VR news and play the latest VR games and that kind of stuff, I was reaching out to developers asking for keys. A few of them gave me keys, and shout out to those developers. I really appreciate it. But for the most part, I was largely ignored because I was a small YouTube channel. I think, I didn't have 1,000 subs, and even with me having 1,400 subs right now, if I would still get ignored by a lot of devs But people like Gamertag with 50,000 subs, developers are kicking his damn door down, begging him to try their games. So for a dev not to give him a key until the day a game releases, that's saying something. So now, so going back to what I was saying about the PC version of the game, based on what I saw, I was not surprised that there was going to be problems with the PSVR 2 version of the game. I just didn't have any idea it was going to be that bad. Especially once I learned, once I got home from work, I learned that's when I found out it was going to be a Quest port of Green Hell VR. And so then I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, being that it's a Quest port, it's not going to take as much to run this game, so there shouldn't be a lot of problems. And I'm thinking to myself that it probably shouldn't be pop-ins and that kind of stuff. But sure enough, it was. And so, so I was totally surprised that the game turned out that way. Now, why the developer waited until the day the game released to give Gamertag a key, I don't know if it's because they knew that this game wasn't good or they were scared of his brutal honesty. I don't know. Only they know. But here's where I take my hat off to Gamertag and give him a shout for his brutal honesty. You know, he gives his honest opinions, but you know, he'll ask himself sometimes, was he too hard on the game? Did he give it a fair chance? That kind of stuff. And I take him at his word, what he said about this game based on what I saw on the PC. I had a funny feeling there was going to be some problems with this game, but I didn't think it was going to be like this. So what blew my mind about this whole thing is after I saw Gamertag's review of the game, I mean, this game, he considered it so bad that he didn't even bother talking about gameplay or talking about the story. So if he would have showed gameplay and he would have gave his opinion of the story and said, I think the story is trash, then I would have considered that subjective. But if a game does not run good, that is not subjective in my mind. That is fact. So, but what really blew my mind about this whole thing is I type in Green Hell VR review, and there was a good number of reviews posted. And like I said, what blew my mind is that I'm seeing some of these reviewers say that it's one of the better PSVR games. It's one of the better looking PSVR games. Okay, but they were also saying it's blurry. There is some blur, but it's one of the better looking PSVR 2 games. There's some jank, but it's one of the better looking PSVR 2 games. There's reprojection, but it's one of the better looking PSVR 2 games. There's some pop-ins, but it's one of the better looking PSVR games. There's low res textures, but it's one of the better looking PSVR 2 games. Whoa! You finding all this shit wrong with it, but it's one of the better looking PSVR 2 games. So I'm like, okay. That made me appreciate Gamertag's honesty even more because, you know, because I feel like there's some people out there towing the line. My original, like, when I looked at Green Hell on PC, originally I wanted to stream it to give people like a preview of the PSVR 2 version. But once I saw that pop in, I couldn't do it. Because I didn't want to stream the game and like give my opinion of the story and then try to act like the pop-ins isn't there. And then, you know, people who might see it might say something about the pop-ins. To So I didn't do it. I mean, honestly, I mean, when it comes to VR games, or any games for that matter, it's going to be pop-ins. Because especially with VR, because VR is very demanding. In my opinion, some games are not very demanding. Some of them are. But Green Hell on PC has some of the worst pop-ins I've ever seen. So, like I said, I could only assume that it might be worse on PSVR 2, especially like if they would have brought the PC version over to PSVR 2, I think it would have been horrible. It would have been a lot worse than what Gamertag said it was. Um, because I think Green Hell VR on PSVR 2, I think it could possibly point to a glaring issue that I think people are turning a blind eye to. And that is that I've said it on a number of occasions that I think PSVR 2 might be underpowered for, I'm not going to say in VR in general, but for underpowered. Underpowered for certain VR games. One thing that I've noticed about the VR landscape, even though I'm a VR sim racer now, I still pay attention to the other VR games. And what I've been noticing lately, especially with PSVR too, a lot of the games that we have been getting lately, or games that are slated to come, the better looking games seem to be puzzle games that's not very demanding. You have a game like, all due respect to the developers, but Red Matter 2, it looks absolutely gorgeous. But I would probably tell you, if not for the dialogue as well as the music, perfectly timed music, the game might put me to sleep, because a lot of the rooms you go into, there's nobody in there, and you got to figure out what the puzzle is to unlock a door so you can get to the next room. You might have to go look in a box and find a key, find a cog, whatever. There's let me see. Hubris just came to PSVR 2. I was a little bit interested in it until I heard reprojection. So that prompted me to go buy the PC version of the game. It looks okay, but again, it's one of those games that, at least for the first couple of hours that I played of it, there's not a lot going on. And so for me, that's where we seem to be with PSVR 2, at least at the moment, is that a lot of the games that seem to be coming to PSVR 2 are puzzle games that they look decent, but there's not a lot going on with them, and the majority of them still have 120 hertz reprojection. So even in these puzzle games that pretty much have nobody in the room with you, and you just got to figure out what the puzzle is, you put your hand in front of you and you wave it, you'll see reprojection. You'll see the ghost trail. For those that might be popping in, once again, I apologize for the camera. It went wacky on me right in the middle of the stream. I'll have to figure out what's wrong with it. And I'm in a position where the only way to get the camera up and running again would be to close OBS and then open it back up, which would kill the stream. So it's just something we got to deal with. So I apologize. And so coming back to some of the things that makes me feel like the power of the PS5 relative to VR might be a little bit suspect. As I was saying, what we seem to have been getting lately is puzzle games that look decent, but there's not a lot of action going on with them. And even though these games don't have a lot of action going on with them, there's still reprojection. which I think when it comes to the refresh rate, I think the PSVR 2 does 60, 90, and 120 native or reprojection. And I don't know, you would, although I haven't seen Hubris yet on PSVR 2, um, I don't know. I would like to think a game like that could have ran at 90 frames native. I don't know. We also got Wanderer coming to PSVR 2. I bought that game on PC as well. It is a very good looking game in terms of the graphics. Um, as far as some of the games slated to come to PSVR 2, it is definitely one of the better looking games. But I'm a little bit apprehensive about it in terms of the frame rate. I got the funny feeling this is going to be another game that's going to be 120 hertz reprojection, and if that turns out to be the case, I think the reprojection could hurt the beauty of the game. If they give the game a native frame rate like they did with Red Matter 2, then yeah, it's definitely going to be one of the better looking games. And I think it could be one of those games when people say, what are the best looking games that's come to PSVR so far? I think right now a lot of people would probably agree that Red Matter 2 might be the best looking game on PSVR 2. And I think Wanderer could get mentioned in that same breath if it has a native frame rate. But if it gets 120 hertz reprojection, as soon as you start moving around and you see that ghost trail and that borderline blur, I don't know how some people are going to react to it, but I think it's going to distract how beautiful the game is. Um, Now, the thing that makes me feel like I think PSVR 2 or PS5 relative to PSVR 2, I've said it before that I think in terms of its power and performance, I think it's above Quest but below PC. And some of the things that I've been seeing more and more solidifies those beliefs because I told people who's been following my channel for a while that I already had said the first 6 months, the first year of PSVR 2, they're going to be playing catch up because basically what they're going to be giving us is a lot of the games that we've already had on PC for years. And some of these ports over to PSVR 2, what I've been noticing is they either get a Quest version that has gotten an extra coat of paint, or they've gotten a PC version that's been downgraded. And I mean, there's a couple of games that are the exception to the rule, like The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. That game does look one-to-one with PC. All the textures that are on PC appear to be on PSVR 2, but the game is not razor sharp the way it is on my PCs. It's a clear picture, but it's not razor sharp. But at the same time with that game, and I think it's got a native frame rate. So, but at the same time, in my opinion, what they've given us with The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, they should have been able to give it to us because the PSVR 1 version of the game actually looked pretty good. There was like the details that were missing from the PSVR 1 version of Saints and Sinners. You had to look real hard to notice it. You had to keep jumping back and forth between PC and PSVR 1 to see the difference. Like, for instance, one of the zombies had like a sack on his head that looked like a potato sack. On the PC version, you could see the stitches and the texture of the material that the bag was made out of, whereas on the PSVR 1 version, the bag on his head didn't have any of those textures, it didn't have any of those details, the stitching, that kind of stuff. But it was something that, like, it wasn't something that I saw right off the bat. I had to keep flopping back and forth between the PC version and the PSVR 1 version. So that game, what they gave us, I think I think it's what they should have been able to give us. There's some other, but the games where I've seen compromises, PokerStars VR, GT7, I've seen noticeable compromises with both of those games. It would take forever to run them off, because I think these games, in the case of, I guess in the case of GT7, I think it's a demanding game for VR. I think if GT7 were to come to VR, come to PC, and you would have put all the textures in that game to make it one-to-one with a flat screen, I think it would take no less than a 3080 to run it. You go into GT7 in VR, and you will notice a little bit of a downgrade in the environment. Flat screen, you go off the track, you see grass, you see blades of grass everywhere. You jump into VR, you go off the track, slide across the grass, you do not see a full lawn, you do not see full blades of grass everywhere. What you see is a green carpet. But GT7 is not the only game that's like that. Just about all sim racing games in VR, that's one of the downgrades you'll notice. So, but they took more than one shortcut and compromise with GT7 that I've noticed. With flat screen, you have the ability to change the different camera angles, from chase to cockpit to bonnet to open. Whereas when you go into VR, you're in the cockpit and that's it. You cannot change views. I think with a flat screen, you also have the option of hitting the button and see a rear angle of the card, so you can see who's behind you. You don't have that option in VR. You definitely have to use the mirrors, as well as if the car has cameras, you have to use those, as well as the track map to gauge where cars might be. In the case of PokerStars VR, PC version, the playable characters have an entire upper body, a torso, an arm, head. PSVR 2 version of PokerStars, there's just the head and floating hands. There's also a lot of the stuff missing from the store. The store on PC has about 15 pages worth of content. There's only about 5 on PSVR 2. So, short story long. Again, I think with some of these games, the power of the PS5 is suspect. I think for as much as I'm not a fan of the 120 hertz reprojection, I think with some of these games on PSVR 2, if they didn't run them at 120 hertz reprojection, they would probably run like absolute shit. I think Firewall coming up next week for PSVR 2. I think that game will be a good measuring stick for how much power, the PSVR has, the PS5 relative to VR. I think that'll be a good measuring stick. Now, keep in mind that Horizon Call of the Mountain and even GT7, in my opinion, when they first came out, they were blurry. And they had to put out patches to address that. They had to put numerous patches out for Call of the Mountain. I think they had to put out like 3 patches. It finally looks, it looks good now, but the reprojection is still there. When you start moving around, there's ghost trails. I think in the case of GT7, when they put out patches to address the blurriness, I think it came at the I think it came at the expense of textures and assets. I think they had to strip a couple of things out of there in order to allocate resources to the clarity, to the sharpness of the game. So um, so we will see what Firewall looks like next week. Crossfire, Crossfire X Sierra Squad, that also comes out a couple of days after Firewall. The trailers we've seen of the game look good, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure I want to get this game because of the uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Gameplay. The campaign is not co-op. It's basically you and three AI characters. And I think the only co-op mode that the game has is like something similar to like a horde mode. So that's got me a little bit apprehensive. Something else to point out with PSVR 2 is that several games have had to get a patch post-launch to address clarity, to address graphics. You know, with Switchback had to get a patch. GT7 got multiple patches. Horizon Call of the Mountain had to get several patches. So I don't know. I mean, I'm excited about Firewall, but for the reasons that I just stated, I'm hoping that the reprojection isn't the biggest thing that stands out about this game. Um, I'm almost, in my opinion, I'm almost certain that I think Firewall will be 120 hertz reprojection. It looks like a very detailed game with really good graphics, and I don't think the PS5 has enough power to run a game like that at 90 frames native. And I feel like I'm 100% certain that it most certainly wouldn't be able to run a game like that at 120 hertz native. I mean, we had to get Red Matter 2 for 120 hertz native, a game that has virtually no action, and every room you go into is like you're the only one in there. It's empty rooms where you got to figure out the puzzle. So yeah. But I will be streaming Firewall, and I will as far as the gameplay goes, I think the gameplay will be good because I think the game will have full manual reloads. Maybe it'll give you an option to press a button and then it goes through like an animated reload, but I hope they give you the ability to do manual reloads on your own. I think it's going to be a good-looking game. I do think if they take the formula of the original Firewall, I think it will be a fun game. This time it is supposed to have uh, dedicated servers, so rooms crashing from the host leaving shouldn't be an issue anymore. Um, and I would say that when the game comes out and I stream it, I think basically the biggest thing that I'm probably going to speak of is the reprojection. I'll tell you, yes, I notice reprojection, or I do not notice reprojection. If I notice the reprojection, I'll tell you how much of a distraction that I think it is. Is the reprojection terrible, or is it minimal? So, uh, so I guess we'll go from there. And if Firewall does not come out very good, then we'll probably have this conversation again. Because the big reason why I keep poking at why I think that the PS5 may be a little bit underpowered relative to VR, because I'm just not sure that we're going to see some of these hybrid games that Sony say that they want to push. Um, I'm not sure if we'll see a Spider-Man or a God of War in VR. I do think it's possible we would see a Twisted Metal in VR if they bring the game back, and I don't think you would go out of your way to put a show in syndication for a dead video game. So I do believe that there will be another Twisted Metal game, and I do believe that it will get support, because it's not a game that requires 6 degrees of freedom when it comes to the controls. I believe that it's a game that you'll be able to use a DualSense controller. Hell, maybe even a wheel. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's a game that could possibly get VR support. But yeah, a game like God of War, Spider-Man, I'm not sure we'll see that on PSVR 2. A game like Half-Life Alyx, in the beginning, I thought it was a no-brainer that we would get Half-Life Alyx on PSVR 2. And I still think it's a strong possibility that we would get Half-Life Alyx on PSVR 2. But because of some of the things that I've seen so far, I do think that if Half-Life Alyx comes to PSVR 2, I think the game's going to be downgraded. I'm almost certain that it would have the 120 hertz reprojection, that it will not have a native frame rate or native refresh rate. And I think visually, I think the game will be downgraded. I think some assets will be stripped out. Some details will be stripped out. Brick walls aren't going to look like a brick wall. It may just look like a brown wall with some very light lines in it, with just enough lines in it for you to see that it's a brick wall, but it's not going to be detailed. I question why GT7 is the only racing game we have on PSVR 2. It had me questioning whether the PS5 is strong enough to run other racing games in VR. You know, I've told you guys more times than I can count that the developer of Assetto Corsa Competizione already said that the PS5 is not strong enough, that the game takes too many resources. So I absolutely believe him that we're not going to see Assetto Corsa Competizione on PS5 for PSVR 2. I was hoping that we would see F123 in VR on PSVR 2, but it hasn't happened. I don't think there's any other major racing games that I know coming up, unless there's like a Need for Speed or something coming up. And I don't, and if it is, I'm not sure we would get it in VR or not. I just don't know. So even though I have my suspicions about the limitations of PSVR 2 relative to the power of the PS5, I do think that I will not be able to reach a conclusion until this time next year. I also think that before I get out of here, I also think that we won't see Grand Theft Auto 5 on PSVR 2. Uh, just for the simple, a lot of people thought it was a no-brainer that it would come to PSVR 2, but I think Rockstar is supposed to be doing some kind of reveal next month to announce Grand Theft Auto 6, which is supposed to be rumored to be coming out next year. And I think that would be an ass backwards move if Rockstar would have announced Grand Theft Auto 6 coming next year, and then Sony would turn around and announce that GTA 5 would get VR support on PSVR 2. A lot of people would just skip that and just wait until next year and buy Grand Theft Auto 6. So if Rockstar makes that announcement about GTA 6 dropping in 2024, that's it. I don't think we're going to get Grand Theft Auto 5 on PSVR 2. I don't think we're going to get it anyway, but I'm just saying that rumored announcement from Rockstar, if that happens next month, it's not. I don't think Grand Theft Auto 5 is coming to PSVR 2. So, now I'm not going to say that I question Sony's commitment to PSVR 2, but I will have to say that I'm definitely going to be scratching my head if they don't show us something that will make PSVR 2 the must-have item for Christmas. So I hope I'm wrong about a lot of the stuff that I'm saying, but I'm just calling it like I see it right now. So with that, I think I'm going to get ready to boogie on out of here. Now, once again, I want to give my good friend Gamertag a shout for his brutal honesty of PSVR 2 or Green Hell VR on PSVR 2. So like I said, I think that could point to a much, much bigger problem. Just checking a couple of things before I get on out of here. All right. So I think that's going to do it for me. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Really appreciate it. And once Quest 3 comes out, even though I have a Quest Pro, I think I'm still planning to buy a Quest 3. And when that happens, I'm going to buy it with my own money. I'm not even going to try to bother reaching out to Meta to ask for a headset. Maybe and I can't even say this because that I have a small channel with only 1,400 subs, because when the Quest 2 came out, they sent one to Eric Hartley, which at the time I think he had about 1,200 subs when they sent him a Quest 2. So who knows? I mean, who knows if they would send me one or not. But I do know that I don't want to go through an ambassador program if they still have that. And I don't want to be restricted on whatever I can say about the headset. I'm just going to buy the headset with my own money and give you my honest thoughts on it. So, but I am excited about, I am excited about when they give us a date for Quest 3. I originally thought that $500 was asking a lot for the headset, but I think after seeing those pancake lenses through the Quest Pro and how it makes some of these PC VR games looks, I think the Quest 3, I think it will be worth the $500 asking price. But we will find out for certain here, hopefully in a couple of months. A lot of people are speculating that the headset will probably launch in October if they follow the same pattern that they did with Quest 2, where they gave us the Facebook Connect in September, and then the headset launched about a month later. So we will see. So with that, I know I keep blabbing, but I'm really about to go ahead and get on out of here. Grab a bite to eat, watch some YouTube, check out that map on Breachers later, and then at some point I got to get on the track and get some practice in. So thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. And, once again, shout out to my good friend Gamertag. I appreciate your honesty, my friend. And I would definitely recommend for VR reviews, check out my good friend Gamertag VR. He will give you his honest opinion. And I don't. And he'll give you his honest opinion. That's bottom line. He'll give you his honest opinion. So definitely check him out. So with that, I'm out of here, folks. Thanks for watching. And until then, you all know the line. Wakanda forever, because my camera is stuck. I can't show you guys the Wakanda forever sign. Long live the king. And deuces. And hopefully the next time you guys see me, at least streaming for this computer, I will have this webcam issue straightened out. But hopefully you didn't need to see me on camera to get the message. So